Greg Jennings, Jen Hale with you. And here's Huntley taking a deep shot. And it's going to be intercepted. Nelson, the intended receiver, taken down by Evans. Justin Evans returns. Martin's down, Evans down.
We've seen primarily from the start by New England.
I like it, especially if they connect here.
Over the head and intercepted. It's intercepted by the rookie Justin Evans. And it's the first time that Brady's been picked off on the road in the regular season since 2015.
So it is third down and 7 from the 9. He's got time, and this pass is going to be intercepted by Justin Evans. Evans bringing it out of the end zone is tackled. So the Miami Dolphins knocking on the door lose that opportunity.
All right. What's going on, Buckball Podcast readers and listeners? This is the Justin Evans podcast, which I know I promised it on a Monday night, and I actually decided to do a couple more film work on him. Then I tried to do some more work just on the show, quality reasons. And then it seems like every time I sat down to record it, life happened, work happened, So I think I'm never gonna post when I'm gonna record a podcast, because I think it's kind of like karma to me. Something bad always ends up happening, or I can't sit down and do it. But I actually am recording this right now. This is after the Bucs preseason game, which I am going to do a podcast on that too. But I was watching the preseason game while I was at work on my phone, so I don't feel like I could give it the proper analysis I want to. Even though I was pleased with what I was seeing. I mean, I wish we could have seen Vita Vea, what the offensive line would have looked like with Vita Vea in it. But overall, I mean, they were getting some pressure. JPP looked good. Gerald McCoy looked good. Vinny Curry was definitely helping Gerald McCoy get a sack on that one. Really, the story of the game was the secondary. The secondaries play really well, especially for the rookies. But you know what? This is the Justin Evans podcast, and we're going to get into it. And I'm going to talk about as much as I can on the audio here. But I do encourage you to go to Buck_ball711 on Twitter, which is my Twitter handle, and really look at the videos that I posted, because I posted a good 20 or 30 videos between 4 games that I watched of him. So, I mean, let's just go ahead and get started. So, talking about Justin Evans, you have to think about what the position is. Playing a free safety position, the term free means something to this position. I mean, it's not meaning he doesn't have an assignment sometimes, but overall, he is the guy with his eyes always on the quarterback. Playing for safety, you need to have range and instincts. I mean, you might be single high or playing one half with a strong safety on the other side. And, normally the strong safety is more physical or a bit bigger, kind of like a nickel backer in a way, playing more close to the line of scrimmage where the tight end normally is at. But the way the defense is now, the strong safety has to be able to do more than just man one side of the field, especially when teams are running, 2 tight end sets. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only position he plays. But, I mean, what I did was, before I started watching Justin Evans, I took a little tip from Danny Jeremiah of the Move the Sticks podcast, which is an amazing podcast. If you're not listening to that, you need to. Him and Bucky Brooks do a great job from a different perspective. But before I was watching Justin Evans, I went back and I watched Earl Thomas, especially in his rookie season. Now, rookie season stat line: 64 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 5 interceptions, 7 pass deflections. That's about as good a stat line for a rookie free safety in the NFL you can have. And what makes him special is his top flight instincts and range, which is the key attributes. Now, being around the ball or behind the ball is what makes that about as good that's what makes that really stand out about him. And not all interceptions are a product of, say, you being in the right position, but you being around the ball more is how you get the overthrows, the tips, and the occasional break on the ball, which, Rondé Barber made a career out of. The other guy I went back and watched was Kevin Byard. This is a guy who had 0 interceptions his rookie season and then exploded with 8. Now, if you go back and watch those 8 picks, it wasn't always him making the play, like being in position, but kind of being around the ball, making one opportunity if it presents itself. Like not biting on certain moves from a wide receiver, staying your spot, keeping your eyes on the quarterback. Now, that doesn't mean that he isn't already one of the best in the league, but he's off to a fast start. his rookie stat line, 44 solo tackles, 0 interceptions, 0 forced fumbles, and only 4 pass deflections. Now, before taking off last year, it was 66 solo tackles, 8 interceptions, and 16 pass deflections. And one of the key things that I've always said about being a defensive back, interceptions are important. They're game changers. They shift momentum, and more importantly, they get your offense the ball back. There's only so many possessions that an offense is going to have in a game, so that helps. But pass deflections are such an underrated stat when it comes to defensive backs, safeties, or anybody. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the first game, which was his first start, the New England game. He earned this starting free safety job with this game alone, no question. I mean, besides a few missed tackles, which you can find on my Twitter account and videos, he was overall as good as you want. I mean, he read and reacted faster than the linebackers on a few plays where he missed the tackles, but the instincts and agility to get the ball were on full display. Now, also, he was playing a little bit closer to the line because Levante David and Quan Alexander were both out of this game. Now, the interception he had on Brady was a good example of his athletic ability. When Brady was clearly winding up to throw to Chris Hogan, he was already coming up to Chris. Now, when the ball went behind, it was almost a split-second decision to contort his body for the pick. Now, I thought that was a really heads-up play by him. Now, like I said, he kept coming up to the line and making plays. But what I did notice about Evans is he doesn't bite on things a lot and stays in positions. His position, I mean, which is, you might want him to start breaking on more balls, maybe, see things a little bit faster. But at the same time, if you're not getting yourself out of place and you're not getting fooled by things, overall that could be a good attribute. He came into this league as kind of a hitter and not really a tackler, which is probably his biggest concern last year. And when I went back and watched his college film, or of what I could find, he wasn't as much of a ball hawk, as I think he has the potential to be. And also, not to mention, in that game, he came butterfingers away from having 2 interceptions on the GOAT, Tom Brady, when he was playing a fullback out the flat. And Brady threw it when the guy was backward turned, and he had the ball in his hands, and he just dropped it. Now, he's looked in camp more of a center fielder, and also this is his second season, so I'm excited to see kind of his transformation. I understand you always hear that cliche, the game is slowing down for him, and I really don't like cliches like that, because sometimes you hear these stories in camp and then it gets you hyped about a player, and it's some of the same the following season. But I really do think that he is as talented as any guy we have in our secondary, and I do think he's going to improve. Now, the Arizona game, his tackling was much improved. I mean, he made multiple open field tackles, but he did have one mistake on the, I believe, John Brown touchdown. It's kind of like if you go back and watch my Twitter account, there was a Chris Hogan play where he goes kind of like an out and up, and if there hadn't been pressure, that would have been a touchdown for Tom Brady. But he kind of fell for the same kind of play, except for on the right side of the field this time. John Brown did out and up, and instead of kind of staying in his position, he ran in to kind of trying to cover the out play, and John Brown turned it upfield. Now, he did end up catching up to John Brown to kind of be in position to still make the play, but he had his back completely turned, and John kind of just stopped, and the ball was in the air forever and just landed right in his hands. So other than that, in that game, I thought he really, really improved. Now, the Miami game, it kind of was in the beginning of the game, he made the interception, which was a diving interception, which was a difficult one, but he kept his eye on the ball. But really, he didn't have as much of an impact because he was playing so far back typically the whole time. And, honestly, that's why I was saying I think he could benefit more playing strong safety sometimes, because he's sticky in coverage and he makes plays closer to the line. But that's only because he wasn't really making breaks on balls as much as you would want a free safety to do. But he wasn't getting out of position a lot. Now, for the Atlanta game, first off, besides the play to Julio where Mohamed Sanu pretty much bobbled the snap and threw it up, and he pretty much is right on Julio, and Julio just makes Julio catches. He actually played a really, really good game. Really, overall analysis of Justin Evans, I mean, he showed flashes to be one of the best young free safeties in this league, despite giving up or potentially giving up at least 4 touchdowns that I watched. Now, he made the most of his athletic ability playing close to the line, and I do eventually think maybe MJ Stewart can end up being free safety and Justin can play strong safety if need be. Maybe he doesn't trust his eyes as well as he should to play the free safety spot, after just 1 year of, film that I watched. So the game was probably 100 miles an hour to him, but he doesn't show his 4.6 speed, which is just kind of straight line, but he is quick and athletic. And I'd love to see how he plays with the defense looking to play more press this year. Let's talk about the younger guys, though. So the defensive backs. Obviously, we have Brent Grimes, Carlton Davis, MJ Stewart, Smith, Vernon Hargraves. Then you have the safeties, Whitehead, Conte, Evans, Tandy. I mean, we spent all offseason talking about the defensive line and the running game. But this secondary could really end up stealing the show this year if they all gel. Now, I'm not saying Legion of Boom, but this could be a good young nucleus of players for years to come. Now, Vernon Hargraves hasn't had an amazing camp because, he had the shin laceration, and then his first preseason game he goes out, I believe it was a hamstring or a calf strain or something like that. So, who knows what that means? But at the end of the day, if you think about it, the young rookies, MJ Stewart and Carlton Davis and Jordan Whitehead, really have all been making quite a few plays in camp, and they did look good their first preseason game of what I did get to watch. Carlton Davis had pass breakups. MJ Stewart had pass breakups. Jordan Whitehead was flying in, and I seen the one play where he looked like he was concussed. But if you think about it, you're going to have, obviously, Vernon Hargraves is going to get his chance to shine on the outside. If they let him play press this year and really, really see what he can do, and then the opposite, you're going to have Brent Grimes. He's going to play off no matter what. That's just the way he is. But he's more instinctual. He's not really as physical because he's a smaller guy. But you got to think this is Grimes last year. If Vernon Hargraves can lock up that outside spot this year and really make a name for himself, you're going to have Vernon Hargraves on the opposite side. Brent Grimes is probably going to play his last year here. I don't see him playing until 36. I mean, he might want to live his life. And then he's talking about going to play basketball. But in his place, you put Carlton Davis, who's also very physical. Chris Conte's obviously still here. He's a fan favorite. And then you put Justin Evans in the backfield. And in the slot, you're going to have MJ Stewart, who him and Javian Elliott are. I don't think it's anywhere close. I think MJ Stewart has made enough plays throughout the offseason, preseason to really lock down that spot. But I mean, eventually Chris Conte's going to be gone too. And if you wanted to, Chris Conte could be gone. Justin Evans play strong safety. MJ Stewart play free safety. Vernon Hargraves outside, Carlton Davis on the outside, and you could still have somebody in the middle, whether it be Javian Elliott if he does stay with the team. Which obviously the Bucs stay in nickel defense a lot. So I mean that could be a possibility. But honestly, all in all, I think Jason Light has done a great job addressing the secondary and defensive line in just one offseason. And especially if this defense can really, really, be more physical. Obviously, last year we had our DBs playing so far back because the defensive line wasn't getting so much pressure. And Ryan Smith got worked. I mean, he probably got worked as bad as any defensive back in this league. And he's obviously, I don't want to give up on a player. I hate to ever say that, but he hasn't shown enough. And even though he started playing stronger towards the end of the year, he hasn't showed enough to really, lock down a job. But that doesn't mean that they won't keep him on the roster because, he has good quality depth and he does know the playbook even if he doesn't play well all the time. But this is going to do it for the Justin Evans podcast. I just want to let you guys know The next player I will be watching is Donovan Smith, and I'm going to have the preseason podcast out before that one. Obviously, Donovan Smith's going to have a lot more input because he's in the middle of the action every single play. Things I'm going to be looking for is how he plays against better competition, lesser competition, how consistent he is. And I know when it comes to being an offensive lineman, everyone always says you can do a million things right, and as soon as you do 2 things wrong, that's what you're going to get overly criticized for. But I just want to give you guys a heads up on what I'm going to be doing. Don't forget to check out buckballpodcast.com. A couple new articles up there. And go to my Twitter handle, Buck_ball, or I'm sorry, I can't talk right now. Buck_ball711. Check out the videos I have of Justin Evans, and you can see for yourself what I think about him. And I think he's going to be great for years and years and years to come. I hope the Bucs have a really good season this year, because I would hate for a new coaching staff and a new I don't think the general manager is going anywhere because he just got an extension. But I'd hate for a new coaching staff to come in and have to start all over with a young nucleus of players. So that's going to do it for today's show, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.